All right, y'all, welcome to the show. Boy, oh boy, do we have some gems for you today. So in just a second, Elon Musk goes to war with Trump and MAGA. He really took the gloves off seemingly overnight. He's going after the big, beautiful bill, and he's going after it aggressively. I'll break that down for you. You're not going to be surprised to learn he may have an ulterior motive. Shocker, I know. All right, so we'll talk about that. We also have Trump Jr. squirms over his dad's corruption. He was questioned about it on CNBC, and he doesn't handle it well. Then we'll get to the head of the ADL is apparently on a crusade against Hassan Piker, trying to get him censored, trying to get him deplatformed. I'll show you the clips on that. Wild, wild stuff, man. Then we'll get to Piers Morgan has finally had enough with the Zionist propagandists that he has on his show, and he snapped at one of them. That was fun. Later on, Alex Jones has become every single thing that he used to hate, and we have the icing on the cake for that for you when you see what he said recently about Trump's mass blackmail and surveillance plot that they're doing right now with Palantir. And then also later on, a top Biden official finally tells the truth. MAGA Senator Josh Hawley humiliated by a law professor in a committee hearing. That's fun. And Nick Fuentes calls out yours truly. That's right, y'all. He called out secular talk, and boy, do I have a lot to say about it. You don't want to miss that. All right, so everybody do me a big favor. Please subscribe to the channel. That's below. It helps out massively and costs you nothing at all. Much love and appreciation to all of you who support this show on Patreon. It literally could not be done without you. This is real independent media, unlike many other outlets that pretend to be independent media in this space. You guys fund this show from the ground up through your tips on YouTube, through your monthly donations on Patreon, $2 a month, $5 a month, whatever it may be. That goes a long way, man. I've never talked to an advertiser. I've never done an ad read. I'm very proud of that fact. You guys make it possible. And while we're doing the shameless plugs, everybody go subscribe to the Corin's World YouTube channel where we're dropping Kyle and Corin episodes every week. We still haven't missed a week since we started putting it on his channel. Corin's World is the name of the channel. I believe he's at 13,000 subs right now. Let's get him to 14,000. We're on track to get to 100,000. He'll be super excited once he hits that number. And Crystal Kyle and Friends. Go subscribe to Crystal Kyle and Friends. That link is below because we have on Shoykat Chakrabarty, one of the co-founders of Justice Democrats, who was AOC's chief of staff for quite a long time. And now he's running against Nancy Pelosi in a primary. So you don't want to miss that interview. Again, sign up for that below so you see the whole thing. All right, guys, let's go ahead and dive right in. So Elon Musk is letting it all hang out. As you all know, him and Trump and their relationship, it's been on the rocks a little bit recently, dog. It's been on the rocks a little bit. So you had Elon take some shots at Trump with his big, beautiful bill. He also said, there's a lot of things that the regime does that I don't necessarily agree with. I agree with a lot of it, but I don't agree with all of it. And I don't want to be blamed for the things I don't agree with. And then literally the next day after he made those comments, boom, fired. Well, it's not that he was fired. It's that they said you no longer hold this special government position and you need to go more in the background. And so Doge work continues through his minions, but he needs to not be the public face of the Republican Party because the Republican Party tanks colossally with him. He can't get away with being like Trump. Only Trump can get away with being like Trump. So to this point, you've had Trump has largely spoken through his actions where, like I said, they're burying Elon in the background, but he hasn't really said anything to go after Elon publicly. By the way, stop and think about that. Why would that be? He goes after everybody else publicly. Why would he hesitate when it comes to Elon? Well, probably because Elon gave him $288 million so that he could win the White House, buy him the White House effectively, right? Probably because there's some sort of a financial deal where Elon and his tech bros helped set up Trump's crypto scam coin, and he's getting rich off of it, right? So he hasn't gone after him publicly, but now that Elon has semi-officially been axed from the inner circle, oh boy, he's going Insky. So look at this. This is the first thing he said in this new string of attacks on MAGA. I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. The massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. So, it's a big deal for him to say this because literally every Republican except one, Thomas Massie, voted for it. So it's a clear break with the Republican Party. Now, as you're going to see, his logic is exactly wrong. So, like, he's against the bill, which is the correct position, but he's against it for the wrong reasons. His whole thing is like, we're not cutting enough from Medicaid. We're not cutting enough from Medicare. We're adding too much to the debt and the deficit. And his main concern is we need to cut spending more. So it's possible to be right for the wrong reasons, and that's effectively where he is on this. So easy with giving too much credit here. There's not much credit to be had. I love that he's bringing about some massive infighting and giving other Republican senators the ability now. He's giving them cover where they could not vote for this and say, hey, what do you want me to say? There's a lot of bad things about it. I love that aspect of it. I love the divide and conquer aspect of it, but he's correct for the wrong reasons. All right, more. So he continues. It will massively increase the already gigantic budget deficit to $2.5 trillion and burden American citizens with crushingly unsustainable debt. So again, as I said, he's right for the wrong reasons. He goes on and says this. In November next year, we fire all politicians who betrayed the American people. So now he's saying, you know how I always threaten to primary anybody and everybody who speaks out against Trump's agenda and votes against Trump's agenda? Now he's flipped it to, if you vote for this big, beautiful bill, which is Trump's brainchild, I'll primary you and I'll funnel a bunch of money into an opponent. So it's the exact opposite of what he said he was going to do previously. Previously, it would have been like, hey, if you voted against the big, beautiful bill, I'll primary you, like Thomas Massie. He'd be primarying Thomas Massie. Now, he disagrees with Trump, so it's like, I'll primary you if you vote for it. So, look, it's getting spicy, bro. This is getting spicy. There's no way around it. All right, so now here's the thing, though. Ready? Jake Sherman says the following. A Republican aide on Elon Musk opposing the reconciliation bill. Quote, the guy that was pro the package until he realized he wasn't going to get his way with the EV tax credits. Oh, okay. So he's pretending like it's about the debt and the deficit. It's not even really about the debt and the deficit. He wants his goodies. Money, money, money. He wants his money. He gets $8 million a day in taxpayer subsidies. He's taken $38 billion in taxpayer subsidies overall. He's a colossal welfare queen. He cuts programs for everybody else as he takes all the money for himself and loots the treasury right in front of our faces. So now we know the real reason. The real reason is he's pissed off. He doesn't get enough goodies in this bill. And that, ladies and gentlemen, makes perfect sense. By the way, can we just have this conversation now about how disgusting it is and how grotesque it is that the billionaires are now openly steering the process when it comes to our legislation? I mean, they've always, or at least in the modern era, they've always steered our legislation from behind the scenes with all their donations and things of that nature. But now you get the world's richest man throwing his weight around, and the real reason he's trying to tank the bill is because he wants more goodies for himself. So in other words, they could objectively make this bill worse and get Elon support. If they cut more Medicaid, if they cut more Medicare, if they destroyed the working class more, and they gave him some EV tax credits, then he would be cheerleading for it. But this is a rare situation where we're lucky that there is Republican infighting. It reminds me of when Obama was trying to do a grand bargain, which would have included some cuts to Social Security and Medicare, and he offered some cuts. But the Tea Party caucus at the time was like, no, we're not going to vote for this because the cuts aren't deep enough. And so we lucked out in the end because there were no cuts that got through because Republicans were fighting over. They wanted more cuts. And so it's kind of a similar thing going on now. So this is the first very clear, out in the open, very straightforward break with Trump and Elon. And like I said, there's a reason why Trump hasn't publicly beheaded him yet. And I really think that has to do with the $288 million that he got. I think it has to do with the corrupt deal they made behind the scenes. I think he needs to credit Elon and his fellow tech bro billionaires for his scam meme coin, which increased his net worth by billions of dollars. So that's why Trump has the kid gloves on. By the way, there's also reporting now that behind the scenes, Trump is furious over this, but he hasn't said much publicly. Right? Again, why? Because there is some sort of a financial deal. But you keep playing with fire, and he could snap on you, dog. In fact, we have other elements of MAGA that are already sort of speaking up here, and I only expect that to happen more and more. So to this point, and by the way, you could see how cucked the Republicans are to billionaires, because you had like Mike Johnson came out and made a comment on this. You had Senator Thune came out and gave a comment on this, and they were basically like, while I respect Elon Musk and I think he's done tremendous work with Doge, we have a gentleman's disagreement on this issue, and I think he's just wrong, and I think the bill is actually wonderful. So, like, think about how they treat anybody else who disagrees with them. They scold them, they yell at them, they hate them, they destroy them. But when it's the world's richest man, it's like, oh my God, I got to put on the kid gloves. And even though he's tearing us a new asshole, I can't tear him a new asshole back. It just shows you how cucked the Republican Party is in the sense that they are full kleptocratic fascists, right? So, but there's one other voice in MAGA that is firing back. And this, ladies and gentlemen, as I said many times, is getting more and more interesting. So here is Sloppy Steve. Sloppy Steve Bannon's out there. Now he's going after Elon. Let's listen.
There are no Doge cuts. Let me repeat this. And this is not USAID. Those are programmatic things. I'm talking about waste fraud. Where's the fraud in Medicaid? Where is it? They haven't showed up with any. Has anybody been turned over to DOJ for fraud? The problem with Musk, and I said this from the beginning, he gave false hope to this political class who doesn't want to cut anything. The reason, if the big beautiful bill's got all these problems, and it has some issues, he drove it because he promised $1 trillion, ladies and gentlemen, $1 trillion that got him off the hook. It's time for everybody to grow up. Run around, show me where it is. The rescission next week is $9 billion, and $2 billion, folks, is PBS and NPR. Give me a break.
So what he's saying is, you promise all this waste, fraud, and abuse. There's literally not a single example of waste, fraud, or abuse. In fact, the only fraud that they found is Elon himself committing fraud because Biden gave him something like a $400,000 subsidy, and they went back and backdated it and made it $400 million. And then when they were caught on that, they had to back away from it. Elon was committing fraud to get more money, right? There's not a single, where are the criminal trials? All this fraud happening with the government. There's not a single fucking example, right? Now, where Steve Bannon is wrong is he's saying, well, why didn't Elon Musk live up to his pledge to cut $2 trillion? Well, Steve, you know damn well that is not fucking possible. That's not you would immediately plunge this country into a Great Depression, and it would happen instantly if you try to cut $2 trillion from the government. They think of these things in such a silly way. They don't realize that the government is incredibly complicated, incredibly complex, incredibly nuanced, that all the money is going to very specific things. The only area where it's truly unaccounted for is the Pentagon, is the military-industrial complex, where they don't account for like 63% of their money, and they failed 7 audits in a row. Every other penny in the fucking government is well accounted for and is, necessary. In fact, we have a relatively meager social safety net compared to other countries. Where the fuck are you going to find $2 trillion? Even if you cut the Pentagon, let's say, 50%, which is something I agree with for the record, then that would have been like $400 billion in cuts, $450 billion. Where the fuck are you going to get $2 trillion from without going after people's Medicare and their Medicaid and their Social Security? You're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. But here he is very clearly taking aim at Elon.
Show me where it is. The rescission next week is $9 billion, and $2 billion, folks, is PBS and NPR. Give me a break. Didn't need Doge for that. Been fighting for that one forever. There's $7 billion in there supposedly of, fraud. On a $7 trillion, he committed to the President of the United States $1 trillion.
I have my popcorn ready, y'all. I have my popcorn ready because this can get way more juicy. I'm hoping Elon takes it one step too far, and then our big beefy wet boy himself, the big boss man himself, cannot help it. And he just goes inski. Because remember when there was a time when Trump hated Elon, right? There was a time, that he had some famous tweet about how, like, Elon, I could have told him to get on his knees, and he would have got on his knees. Here's a guy who makes ships that don't fly. He makes products that don't work. And he was begging me like a dog. He had some tweet like that. It was glorious. Everybody loved it, right? Can we get back to that point? And then, like we've been talking about, it is very possible Elon tries to do a full face turn, y'all, because he destroyed Tesla. Remember, the clientele base at Tesla, what was it? It was all like relatively well-off liberals. That's who buys Teslas. They're expensive electric cars, right? It was all liberals. Well, then you fucking tanked your whole brand by snuggling up to MAGA. So now none of the liberals are buying Tesla. The conservatives aren't going to buy them because they're busy driving Chevy Silverados and Ford F-150s. So you're in no man's land. You destroyed your businesses. And for what? For what? So you can cut fucking pediatric cancer research and USAID? What are you, crazy? And so I suspect this might be the beginning of an attempted face turn. But here's the thing. I don't know if it'll work because he's pissed off liberals and leftists so thoroughly that even if he does a full face turn, the reality is what I will do is take his word with his stories about Trump and MAGA and everything going on behind the scenes. I will believe what he tells us on that. But I will never believe this man, sincerely in his heart of hearts, has become a good person. When he was fucking out there saying that the fundamental weakness of Western civilization is empathy. Like, are you kidding me? What a disgusting, disgusting freak. He's got hundreds of thousands of deaths on his hands from the U.S. aid cuts alone. It's going to be millions eventually. So do not welcome him back in the fold. He's going to try to get back in. Do not welcome him in. But you can take his stories. And you can sit back, relax, eat some popcorn, and enjoy the vicious fight which is about to unfold, which again, I will enjoy thoroughly. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.